Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and today we're ranking the animated films released in 2016. So I think I saw pretty much all of the animated films that had a theatrical release here in the United States. I know I saw all of the big studio productions, and I think I saw quite a few of the mid-tier. Unfortunately, I haven't seen some of the smaller anime films or Your Name, so those won't be showing up on the list. I know, I'm terrible. But I do have a total of 16 animated films that were released into theaters this year that I saw, either while they were in theaters or I caught up on them for the purpose of this review or later on home video. Kicking off our list at number 16, aka dead last, is Norm of the North. Honestly, there's almost nothing redeemable about Norm of the North. The only real positive I can say is that I like messaging to smaller children that we're destroying our earth and climate change is a thing. Outside of that, I mean, any movie that Rob Schneider gets to play your lead, whether it's animated or live action, isn't going to be good. And Norm of the North definitely lives up to that. The animation is just old school video game-esque. The jokes are horrible, the voice work is not very good, and I mean, there's a twerking polar bear, for goodness sake. It's a mess. At number 15, I have The Wildlife. So The Wildlife wasn't actually as cringeworthy as I thought it was going to be, but it just isn't on the level of normal animation that actually gets released into the theater. If I stumbled across The Wildlife for free on TV, I think I would enjoy it well enough. I think your kids will like it if you see it for free on TV. However, it just isn't even worthy of a matinee price at the theater. I really liked that little Tapir. I thought she was pretty cute, pretty funny, and I mean the characters all had a certain little bit of charm, but again, the quality of the animation just was lower than you'd expect going to see something at the theater. The writing was lower than you'd expect, and overall, I mean, it wasn't very good. It just wasn't as bad as I was expecting. At number 14, we have Ratchet and Clank. So I ragged on this pretty hard in my review, and I pretty much stand by that. It just so happens that I think this is maybe a level above the two films that I just listed. Again, I think this looks like early 2000s video game, and that's not really what I want to see when I pay for a movie in the theaters. The voice work pretty much across the board is actually good, and the story is fun for kids, but I think overall it's not quite ridiculous enough to be a good time for children and to be aimed squarely at children. It just kind of slogs along, and it doesn't have anything in there for adults to really enjoy. Number 13, we have Ice Age Collision Course. So I think actually this Ice Age movie is a step up from the last couple that they've released, and I didn't think it was horrible, but it definitely is not on the level of the other animated fare that has been released this year. As we have had with the sloth character, we had too many fart and burp and all that jazz kind of jokes in here, none of which are funny still. But I really like the message about family, and I think that the characters enjoy each other. But I mean, you know what you're going into with an Ice Age movie. It's not as bad as some of the other ones, but it's still not really that good. At number 12, we have Sausage Party. So the inventiveness of Sausage Party is really strong, and the animation is done really well, which actually is unfortunate because supposedly the animators didn't really get paid, and it's something different. I mean, it's a raunchy, R-rated animated film that was released into theaters. However, I think this movie got a pass from critics for kind of going after religion, and that short-sighted them on all of the offensive material in here, and I just can't forgive a movie that has about 4 instances of rape. To me, that just makes a movie pretty much unwatchable, and the fact that all of these instances of rape were used for laughs makes it pretty unacceptable. So, Sausage Party, it ranks higher than the other 3 because as an animated film, it looks better than the other 3. It's a little bit more inventive, and the writing is good. The overall concept is really strong, but it thinks being offensive is actually being funny, and that inappropriate actions and inappropriate things, naming things inappropriate names and calling things inappropriate things, is a punchline when it's really not. At number 11, we have the Angry Birds movie. So this was a fine movie. I didn't really know what to expect. I've never played Angry Birds the game, but I do know the premise, and I was very confused as to what they were going to do to stretch this out to an entire hour and a half or more film. I thought they did well. I thought, the story was cute, and once we actually got to like the Angry Birds game simulation part, I thought it really picked up and was a blast. I thought they really were inventive in how they brought the actual aspects of the game into the film. I also think Red was awkwardly cute, like with his little round body, his little beak, and angry eyebrows. But the problem with Angry Birds is, one, it's not as funny as it should be. With Jason Sudeikis and Josh Gad at the helm here, it really should have been, like, hilarious. And I like a little bit of mean-spirited humor. That's kind of right in my wheelhouse. So I was expecting to actually find this movie quite funny, and it just didn't make me laugh very much. That, coupled with the very weird ending message of the film, put this down below the top 10 animated films of the year. At number 10, we have Trolls. So Trolls kind of was like a bright-colored, glittery, song-filled mess. The storyline was all over the place, and the songs were used to almost disastrous effects in the film. But Trolls at least looked unique, and it looked really pretty. I enjoyed the really colorful, kind of crazy scenes. Some of the songs were okay. I mean, who didn't love Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake? I mean, come on. And Anna Kendrick and Justin Timberlake are their usual charming selves. But just the character design with those ugly, hideous noses, and the gross troll creature-looking villains, it just, ugh. So while it was gorgeous about half of the time, it was like, oh, I want to avert my eyes the other half. Plus, the story is pretty generic overall, and the end message is kind of the inverse of the Angry Birds movie, where it kind of tells you, be happy, only happiness. And it's like, oh, okay, well, you two need to find somewhere in the middle. Oh, wait, that movie's a much superior film called Inside Out. At number 9, I have Storks. So I know a lot of people, including critics, loved Storks. I thought it was okay. Overall, the animation was actually done really well, and all of the characters had cuteness to them and nice personality to them. That's what I want out of an animated movie. I don't want to look at ugliness. However, I don't like birds having teeth. But the beginning of this movie, the pacing is just so weird. It slogs so strangely, and I hated that little pigeon bird. I thought he was ridiculous and annoying. So I went the entire film feeling meh about the movie. I thought it had some good parts, some bad parts. Overall, the story was just kind of eh. And that story with the kids, that whole storyline, just felt very reused. But wow, that ending really got me. I think they wrapped it all up amazingly well. It left me on a high note. So that's what really elevated Storks above what I probably would have given this film. The ending was just so perfect. At number 8, I have The Secret Life of Pets. So 8th place is basically how high you can get on cuteness alone, because I loved all of the animals in this movie. I just thought they were so adorable. And I thought the voice work in this movie was also very good. I think everybody really put a good effort in, including Kevin Hart, and I really enjoyed everybody's effort in the film. I also think Kevin Hart as that little white bunny was really funny. And to be honest, I think this was Kevin Hart's funniest role of the year, so that's saying something in a year where he had 4 feature films in theaters. The reason that The Secret Life of Pets doesn't really get higher is it felt very old school. It's a cute movie, it's a fine animation film, but it doesn't really have a deeper message. It doesn't have that sophistication that we've kind of become accustomed to from our animated movies. So while I enjoyed the movie, I don't think it did anything exceptionally well, anything that really deserved to get into the top 7 for sure. And I think that the whole storyline with the new dog and his previous owner, and especially when they get into like that factory, was way out there, way kooky. But it was an perfectly enjoyable but kind of forgettable animated movie. At number 7, we have Sing. So, Illumination finds itself pretty much smack dab in the middle of the list for both of their animated features. And I did kind of a long introduction to my Sing review, dissecting what I think Illumination Studios is doing right now to garner all of this success. And much like I said there, and I just said with The Secret Life of Pets, this is just another good, nice, animated film. It all feels cliched, none of it is really breaking any sort of new grounds. I thought it had way too many storylines, none of which really felt original, but I thought there were a lot of really good vocal performances here. I think the entire voice cast was really, really good, and the singing and production numbers in this movie were also really, really good. But I found myself kind of just enjoying the movie as it unfolded, even as I had problems with the film. There were enough laughs sprinkled throughout, there were enough cute moments sprinkled throughout. The musical numbers were there for a purpose. They weren't just like shoehorned and shoved in. They were more or less there to entertain. And that final talent show number was amazing. I think the entire final talent show was just so fantastic that it elevated this all the way up to number 7. So here we are. The top 6 for me are definitely the cream of the crop. The top 6 are just a whole nother level, and that starts with April in the Extraordinary World. So I had a ton of people really tell me I should watch this, recommend this film to me while it was in theaters still, but I only got around to actually seeing it once it came out on home video. But what a wonderful, charming little gem. This film towed the line and perfectly balanced having a really serious live action feeling script with the fun and the humor that you need injected into an animated film. I think the script was just fantastic, and I think Darwin, the cat, was wonderful. I really think that the entire film just keeps you gripped because the story itself is so interesting. So they just create a fun world and a fun time to go through with April and Darwin. What keeps April in the Extraordinary World from being top 5 material for me were that I love hand-drawn animation. We don't see nearly enough of it. Thankfully, the French keeping it alive, as well as over in Japan. But this wasn't the best hand-drawn animation. Often it's a stylistic choice, but this just seemed overly simplistic, overly old school. And while I think the end made sense to the storyline, it jumped the shark in feeling a little bit once the actual villains were revealed. I thought it was a little bit jarring, but then it pulled it back in, and they were so believable once you actually got into knowing these villains that it worked itself out. So I loved April in the Extraordinary World. I think if the animation was just a little bit more clean and a little bit more detailed, then this may have made it into the top 5. So at number 5, we have Kung Fu Panda 3. I think this film is absolutely gorgeous. The hand-drawn style sequences, the old school animation styles, are used to great effect in this movie. And they balance out so well with the really charming, really warm, nice feeling of the new 3D animation. I also love what Kung Fu Panda 3 had to say about family, and had a great message for adoptive families and what that means moving forward and choosing your family. Plus, I love the score. I think actually Kung Fu Panda 3 has one of the best scores of 2016. I adored it. And again, the action sequences are just beautiful to look at. What really holds Kung Fu Panda 3 from climbing even higher up on this list is that a lot of it felt a little bit the same with the first 2. I think this may be my favorite of the 3, but it recycles the same type of humor and some of the same beats, some of the same, fat panda jokes that we've seen one time too many. At number 4, we have Finding Dory. Ellen DeGeneres not only pushes the material forward, she pushed this movie into existence. And That kind of love for the character and for the world is infectious. We saw it with Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool, and I think it is just as apparent here with Ellen DeGeneres and Finding Dory. As a straight comedy, this might be the funniest Pixar movie to date. It's definitely in the top 3. I also really enjoyed most of the new characters that we were introduced to, most of all Hank the Octopus, who I thought was amazing, one of my favorite animated characters of the year. And as usual, it is gorgeously animated. I mean, the animation here is perfection, as you would expect from Pixar. It also has some extremely poignant moments, also what you come to expect from Pixar. There's one sequence in particular where Dory finds her own home, and the scene has to do with rocks that just breaks your heart. I was just like, oh my gosh. Also, Baby Dory is one of the cutest things to ever come across my eyeballs. Oh my gosh. The only thing that really keeps this movie back for me was that the ending got a little bit ridiculous. I mean, there's jumping the shark, and then there's jumping the shark. It got completely out of hand. But overall, the movie is really fun. It's really heartfelt, and it just felt really nice to be back with these characters. I really enjoyed me some Finding Dory. So the top 3 was super difficult, and I must have reordered the top 3 a million times. I just sat there contemplating, wondering how am I going to choose between these 3 animated films. I love them all so much, and just know that this rank might be a little bit arbitrary because they're all pretty much on the same level for me. I loved them. But currently at number 3, I have Zootopia. What a sophisticated, wonderful film from Disney. Wow, have they stepped up their messaging game. And Zootopia is definitely the peak of perfectly blending a deep, powerful message with the perfect medium to get it to a younger audience. Earlier, we talked about that movie, Norma the North, and how it had a good message, but that message was grabbed and smashed over your head. Zootopia, however, has a deeper message, and one that I think is harder to actually talk to other people about: race issues and discrimination issues and sexism issues, and it sneaks them in. It uses an animal analogy that is perfect in every way, and it uses it to great effect. You don't feel like you're being preached at. You feel like you're entering this wonderful anthropomorphic world. And the characters are beautifully animated. Judy Hopps is a wonderfully optimistic little bunny. Nick Wilde is a nice, wily little fox. And the world building around these 2 wonderful characters is fantastic. I wish I could have just spent hours upon hours upon hours exploring the different boroughs of Zootopia. And to be honest, I don't really have negatives about the film. I think it was almost perfect for an animated movie. I really think it was wonderful. At number 2, I have Kubo and the Two Strings. What a film. Not an animated film, just what a film. What ultimately put Kubo and the Two Strings up at number 2 for me was just how sophisticated and different, what a standout film it was amongst not only the animated films released this year, but just cinema, period. What a wonderfully sophisticated tale about loss, about sorrow, about depression, about fate. It all just came together beautifully with animation to match. I mean, this film is expertly animated, and I think the best work that Laika has done in both the animation and storytelling departments. But they really outdid themselves with the animation here. This was just like a wonderful old school fable come to life in the most beautiful of ways. Plus, already the stop motion that they utilize kind of sets it apart from the rest, makes it feel more unique, but it just stood out for being such a sophisticated movie that I had to put Kubo at number 2. Again, I can't really find flaws. I think maybe pacing is an issue, but I didn't find it an issue. I really love Kubo. So what movie was able to beat out these 2 nearly perfect films for my favorite animated film of 2016? That would be Moana. So I'm going to start off with a small caveat that I think as actual pieces of film and filmmaking, Zootopia and Kubo and the Two Strings are probably a little bit better than Moana. I think they have less of the tropes, less of the pitfalls. But what puts this film above those two is just how it personally resonated with me. I have not had this joyful, good time in a movie all year. I was literally smiling from this opening credits all the way through to the ending credits watching this movie. I rushed out to buy the soundtrack. I think this was kind of like my Frozen experience. But outside of it just like really resonating with me personally, Moana as a character is wonderful. I think she is probably my favorite animated character of the year. She is really deep, she is really multi-layered, and just a wonderful character for girls and boys to look up to. Young children of color to finally see up on the big screen. Girls to finally see somebody without this stick figure kind of body shape. And I know people harp on it, but it's also really refreshing to have a princess movie that doesn't have a love interest. And in fact, Disney did it twice this year with two female protagonists that didn't have a love interest. They just had like a male sidekick friend that helped them out. But to finally have a human female character that doesn't have a love interest was amazing. I also think that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is extremely charming, and it came blasting through the screen. The music was amazing. The animation, of course, was gorgeous. And I think I might give the nod to Baby Dory, but Baby Moana was so adorable. As was Pua, and that's one of my other only negatives of the film. We got so little of Pua and it made me upset. But again, this movie has such great messages about bravery, about choosing your pathway, about listening to your inner voice, and accepting advice and guidance, but always staying true to what it is inside of you. That is also a very sophisticated message to get across, and I think this movie does it better than any other film I've really seen. The whole movie completely captured me, and I fell in love with it. I haven't been able to really stop thinking about Moana since I've seen it, and I think that's what makes it my favorite animated film of 2016. So thank you, Pikachu and Charmander, for helping me co-host this animated special. I know everyone else also has their own opinions on the animated films released this year. So go ahead, share your opinions. I know you're going to disagree with some of my rankings. Let me know what your rankings are down below. And let me know what you think of my analysis for each of the films and how I ranked them. I look forward to conversating with you all about a great year in animation. So, I love you all so much for your support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!